Subuh is a collaborator and a homosexual. He spent 5 months in jail without charges. 3 months after his detention, we decided at the Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group to make a petition calling President Arafat to release Dr. Fathi Subuh. And we decided that this petition will be sent to the all Palestinian universities in Palestine. We sent the petition to 9 universities, asking doctors and academics to sign on it. You will be surprised if I will tell you that we get a response only from 1 university, Birzeit University. 18 doctors and academics signed on that petition. So if the intellectual people who supposed to build the civilian society are keeping silence today on all of these abuses, so I can guess which darkness future is waiting for the Palestinian community. There is a kind of fear under the Palestinian Authority. People are afraid, but it doesn't mean to keep silence on all of these severe abuses. We are still suffering from the Israeli occupation abuses. Our land is still confiscated. Our homes are still demolished by the Israelis. So if our authority is doing such kind of abuses, so which kind of future the Palestinian community are waiting for? I'm not so surprised from the Palestinian Authority attitude and behavior, but I'm much more surprised from the community itself. And the community must have to know one thing, that democracy will never be built by leaders or by governments. Democracy is the determination of the people themselves. So, for what people are waiting for in Palestine, I really don't know exactly. We are trying all the time to let the community knows well about all of these abuses. And then the community who must have to start involving and acting against all of these abuses, and to find ways how to put pressure on the Palestinian Authority to change that policy. Yeah, I would like to finish here, and I guess that many questions are going to be raised, and maybe that through the questions we can make the things much more clear.
Maher Hananiya, the reasons that the Palestinians are quiet about this issue is because for the last 30 years they've been under very harsh and a lawless society, that there has been a lot of different factions, a lot of thefts, a lot of drug dealers, and a lot of different abuses by traders selling land to the Israelis, that the people are giving time to the Palestinian Authority to try to clear those people out of society before they come. Because as you know, during the Intifada, the Palestinian men, women and children fought one of the best trained army in the world. The people, I think, the Palestinian people in the occupied territories are not afraid to face the Palestinian Authority. I think at one time they will face them. But I think a drug pusher in Ramallah or Nablus, I think, is a bigger threat to our children than Yasser Arafat torturing a person in prison. I think that a land trader, and land in our area is very precious. We're only asking Israel to give us 23% of Palestine. And if we have people day in and day out selling land to the Israelis, I think that's also a bigger threat to us than Yasser Arafat torturing a person in prison. I don't approve of torture, and I don't approve of any of the human rights abuses, but I think, don't you think that you're not doing justice to the Palestinian people in Palestine by saying that you were surprised by their action?
If you already talked about the drugs in Nablus, I never hear that the Palestinian Authority tried even to make kind of fight against these people who are selling or who are dealing with drugs, as an example. On the other side, what does it mean to give an opportunity to the Palestinian Authority to create their own judicial system and their own state? If within 3 years already 19 people died in custody and hundreds already tortured, you must have to understand that such kind of abuses will make roots in the land, and after 10 or 15 years it will be impossible to come and to cut all of these roots. The Palestinian Authority must have to understand one thing, that if they will commit any kind of abuses against the Palestinian people today, it means that you are giving the Israeli abuses a kind of a legitimacy. Now, we never defame the Palestinian Authority when we are talking, when we expose all of these violations. The Palestinian Authority who must have to understand that such kind of abuses will defame and will harass the image of the Palestinian Authority in the future. On the other side, there is a very big lack of control between the Palestinian Authority and the security services. When somebody died in jail, the Palestinian Authority never arrested people or investigated the torturers themselves. The Palestinian Authority even trying to give a kind of impunity to the abusers. So if you are giving an impunity to the abusers, what does it mean? Is it mean that in the future you are really going to respect the rights of the people? Never. 19 people died, and only in 2 cases people brought for trial. In 2 cases. So what does it mean, a kind of opportunity for the Palestinian Authority? The Palestinian Authority must have also to give attention to the Israeli violations and to try to protect its community from these violations, and not to commit it by itself in new violations against the same community. Yeah.
Just to set the record straight, I mean, you mentioned that the PA has stopped torturing political prisoners. If there's been any exception to that, could you clarify that? And the second thing is, do you think there's been a change in the attitude of the Palestinian human rights community since the founding of the monitoring group?
Yeah, first of all, as I said, the Palestinian Authority stopped torturing Palestinian political prisoners.
Why?
That's because at the beginning, the Palestinian Authority arrested prisoners, political prisoners, and they tortured them severely at the beginning, as a result of the Americans and the Israeli pressure. But there was a kind of a reaction from the community itself against the authority on these tortures against the political prisoners. So the Palestinian Authority decided, at least, not to humiliate any Palestinian political prisoners anymore since last year until today. So most of the people who are facing torture, as I said, are people who committed civilian offenses, not any military actions against the Israelis. Now, towards the human rights groups, I think that the Palestinian Authority becomes today much more open towards the human rights groups. Now they are interested to receive human rights officials, to talk with human rights officials. We have a very wonderful Attorney General who is receiving our reports, the draft of the reports, before we are publishing them, and he responds to these reports. So this is a kind of improvement we are saying in many times under the Palestinian Authority. Now, no human rights activist, as an example, arrested since last year until now. This is also a kind of improvement. When they alleged me as a collaborator and today they alleged me as a liar, it's also an improvement under the Palestinian Authority. So there is a kind of a dialogue between the Palestinian Authority and the human rights groups. But on the same side, we are in the Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group already faced some indirect troubles from the Palestinian Authority. As an example, in July 97, they call us from the Ministry of Information and they said that the reports that you are distributing in the autonomous areas are in need for a circulation permit. How we can get a circulation permit? It's so simple. Just to come to Ramallah to fill an application, and within 2 days you will get it. Okay, we fill the application. After 2 days they call us back by saying, congratulations, the minister already signed the permit. So can I come to Ramallah to pick it? No, you couldn't. Why? Because you still have to bring us a certificate for a good conduct. What does it mean, good conduct? How I can get a good conduct? Through the Jerusalem governor. In Jerusalem there is a governor. Where is he sitting? In a village near Jerusalem. We went to the governor on the 20th of July 97. We applied for the good conduct. Until now we received just nothing. But the minister already signed the permit. But when we will receive the permit, nobody knows exactly. Now, some lawyers suggested to us, to appeal to the High Court against the Ministry of Information, why they refuse to give you the permit. But what does it mean to appeal to the High Courts? The High Courts already gave several decisions to release people from detention, but the Palestinian Authority refused to do so, and they refused to implement even these decisions. I remember in August 96, the High Court in Ramallah gave a decision to release 10 students from Birzeit University. The problem is that after the decision, the Palestinian Authority fired the judge and the prisoners remain in jail. This is how the Palestinian Authority acting towards the judicial system. Yeah.
Please identify yourself.
I'm Ahmed Ahmed, the Minaret of Freedom Institute. You mentioned your disappointment that neither the media nor the academic community has responded to your work. What about the Islamist movement? Have they been supportive of what you've been doing, or at least interested in what you've been doing?
I think that the Islamist movements are very interesting in the work that we are doing, because as you know, the Islamist movements are also trying to use all of these reports and these abuses for their political interests. When the Islamic movements today are talking or publishing our reports and reporting about these abuses, it doesn't mean that they are really respecting, these rights which violated by the Palestinian Authority, because they are in the position of a political opposition now. And we know in everywhere in this world, the political opposition all the time, becomes the sympathizers of the human rights. But when the opposition will take power, we know exactly which violations these people are going to commit it. So the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad is very empathizers today with our reports and the work that we are doing, but we know exactly what is the main aim of such kind of activities.
Peter Gupster, in Europe. Could you talk a little bit about some of the other NGOs and their experience with the Arafat administration, and also add on a little bit about what the status of the NGO law is, what its content, and when it might be passed?
Yeah, unfortunately, we try to make a kind of a research about the NGOs in Palestine, but it seems that this matter is so complicated under the Palestinian Authority. The people who even try to defend the NGO network under the Palestinian Authority are unwilling to report to us what exactly the problems between the NGOs and the authority, what the authority is trying to plan, to put planning, which kind of planning the authority trying to impose on the NGOs work. We try to make a research, but we fail in that matter, and we have not so much idea about what is going on today between the NGOs network and the Palestinian Authority. As you know, the Palestinian Authority is just trying from time to time to impose difficulties on these NGOs. The Palestinian Authority trying to create a new NGOs to face the non-governmental organizations. The Palestinian Authority, as you know, the Bar Association of the lawyers, they met in July last year to elect a new Bar Association. President Arafat called them during the meeting by saying, please delay that issue or that elections for 1 week. So they accept his demand. But 2 days later, President Arafat already appointed a bar association. And when we call, the lawyers to talk about that, no lawyer is willing to criticize that procedure which made by the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah, just a short note. The last we heard is that there's a new draft law which is under discussion between leading NGOs and a subcommittee of the Legislative Council, and the law apparently is a very good one, much better than the original drafts. But there's no word on when it might be presented for vote, or if it was voted on, if Arafat would approve it or not.
Yes, you talked about the Supreme Court and High Court, and well, I'm wondering what laws they are using in this court.
Yes. As you know, the Palestinian Authority already announced that the West Bank will functioning under the Jordanian law and the Gaza Strip under the Egyptian law. So there are laws in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, but the Palestinian Authority is unwilling to implement these laws. So when the judges of the High Court gave a decision to release somebody from prison, it's according to the Jordanian law. They are giving the decision. But the problem that the Palestinian Authority, who already announced that the Jordanian law will be valid in the West Bank, they are unwilling to respect or even to implement that law. So these decisions already taken according to the Jordanian law in the West Bank and according to the Egyptian law in the Gaza Strip.
Just one is like in Jordan, the High Court, can the king reverse the decision of the High Court?
The king, yes. The king himself, yes. The king himself, yes, yes.
So he's
yes,
using the same
yes.
authority.
This is, this is looks like the death penalty. When when somebody is sentenced to death penalty, that sentence must be adopted by the president.
So Arafat is using the same.
That's
No,
right, the same
no,
position.
it's not. It's not the same law, because in Jordan you also have a court of cassation above what is used as a high court in Palestine, and the relationship between the court of cassation and the king is different than what exists in the PA. But that's a complicated question that we shouldn't.
Yeah, but
shouldn't try and
Arafat
confuse.
also trying, to deal with the Supreme Court. Looks like the King Hussein is dealing with the Supreme Court in the same position. Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to ask, you mentioned that the intellectuals and academics, journalists, most of them, human rights organizations which were very active during the Israeli occupation, now they are not doing their role in protecting the Palestinian community. Where do you see the light, the end of the tunnel? Where do you see the breakthrough? How do you think from this reality, very sad reality, the Palestinian community can go through?
Sometimes for the human rights organizations, there are some organizations who are functioning, from a political views. That they are willing to defend Hamas prisoners as an example, but not collaborators who arrested by the Palestinian Authority. With the journalists, the problem that there is a kind of a self-censorship today, and that's much more difficult than any other official censorship in any state. So because the Palestinian Authority already arrested several tens of journalists since they came to the territories, so every journalist now knows exactly what the Palestinian Authority is interested in. If we will talk as an example about the Israeli abuses, every journalist is coming, Palestinian journalist, and every newspaper is willing, to bring your research or your report on the Israeli violations in the front page. But what about the Palestinian? No, Jibril Rajoub will be upset, Mohammed Dahlan will be angry, the president, will maybe ban the newspaper. So, who is going, to protect the rights of these journalists? Sometimes they are asking me, if we will report about the Palestinian Authority, you will protect us from the Palestinian Authority? I said no. I even unable to protect myself under the Palestinians. Some people thought that if our organization is located in East Jerusalem, it's giving us a kind of protection. But it's never, because I was arrested from East Jerusalem on the 3rd January 96 during the election campaign to the Legislative Council. And because I criticized President Arafat personally in that time, why he is using the Palestinian TV for his own campaign and didn't allow to any Palestinian candidate to appear on the Palestinian TV. Immediately I was arrested. Immediately on the same day after I gave that statement for 25 hours. And only because the media I was released. Not because the intervention of anybody. So sometimes we have contacts, as an example, with the French organization Reporters.
I'm Mark Berzonsky, your host for this weekly program, Mideast Realities, and thank you for watching. If you too are concerned about the situation in today's Middle East and about U.S. policies toward that crucial region of the world, and if you'd like to meet like-minded persons, why don't you come to one of our weekly social meetings? I'll be there, of course. Just give us a call for details.